The do's and don'ts of VA disability C&P exams. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Now it's kind of cold here in the office. You see me all dressed up like I'm out in the snow and ice. But here in Texas, at the very bottom of Texas on the Mexican border down here where all the illegals are crossing currently, it is 28 degrees and it is pretty tough out there, guys. A VA C&P exam is one of the most important days of your life. So make the most of it and be prepared when going in for your C&P exam, no matter if it's mental health, if it's migraine headaches, if it's hearing, if it's PTSD, whatever it might be prepared before you go in there. Know your medical records, know your medical history. Now let's jump right into this video. Number one, it's important to get there on time. That is so important. If you miss a C&P exam, they're more likely than not to cancel it. If you're getting ready for the C&P exam, make sure you do a dry run of where the exam is going to be held at. If you don't know the area, spend the time ahead of time to make sure you get there on time to get the C&P exam. If you miss it, you're in a lot of trouble and they cancel it, and then your benefits may be may have a little issue getting your benefits at that point in time without going through the C&P exam. The second thing you want to do when going to a C&P exam is dress appropriate. Now, if you're one of these like myself that work for yourself, you got your own little office set up in the old coal warehouse like where I'm at today, well, you're going to dress accordingly. So I don't work every day of the week, but when I do work, I dress in shorts, a t-shirt on a hot day. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to go to a C&P exam like that. You dress appropriately. I'm not telling you to go in there and dress up with a cowboy hat and press t-shirt, or press shirt and press jeans and a $300 set of boots, but dress accordingly. I think you know what I mean. Dress accordingly, okay? So don't overplay it. Don't underplay it. Be yourself. Be who you are. Do what you need to do for that moment, and do not go into that C&P exam thinking or telling that examiner that this is one of your best days you've ever had. Be honest with them. Tell them as it is. Show up early for the C&P exam. They're going to judge you on that. They're going to look at you from the moment you pull into that parking lot, most likely. Some of these C&P examiners' offices, OptumServe, LHI, whatever you want to call them, it's a possibility they're going to be watching you from the moment you get driving the parking lot, the moment you get out of that car, as you're walking in. They may have other people greet you in the hallways to the entrance to the building to see how you're functioning, how you're walking. They will have all eyes on you before the C&P exam, all the way to the time you get in your car and drive off that parking lot. So make sure you're on your A game with your attitude, your ways, everything in general when you're taking the C&P exam. You want every one of your, I guess you say, elements reflected in the C&P exam to match your records that the VA has in order to win your case. So be on time, dress appropriately, prepare yourself the day before, and get on with the exam. On one of my very first C&P exams, I had prepared for it for 3 nights. I read every medical record I could get my hands on. I went through everything I had in my original medical records along with what was online. I thought in my mind I had this all figured out. But in some cases you get in there and you're under a lot of pressure. This is your spot, the spotlight is on you, and you're saying, I got this, and then all of a sudden they start asking you questions and your mind just goes blank. It happened to me on my first C&P exam. Then I was all paranoid and depressed and had anxiety attacks and didn't know really how to answer the questions appropriately. But I sat there for a minute, pulled it together, regrouped, and did the best I could. Needless to say, I failed the first C&P exam. If you have to, and it's not against any VA rules, policies, or C&P examiner rules, it's not against the law, period. Take you some notes, write you some notes the night before, highlight those notes. What is the most important thing you're going to need to be answering questions, answers, whatever it might be. Highlight the parts that you think are going to be important. Let's say, for instance, you're going into a C&P exam for depression and anxiety, which would be mental health. You'd go ahead and make you some notes on what you're really needing to get over to that examiner more so than any other topic. Don't go in there and tell them your whole life history. The C&P examiner only has so much time to give you that test and examination And she's going to want you to give her the highest point of difficulties, I guess you could say, or say depression. You're going to have to relate a lot of things in general to get her to understand why you need a rating or why she should agree with the diagnosis that you have from the VA clinic. You will have to be what's a mouthful, can you spit it out? Uncomfortably vulnerable. In other words, you're going to be telling this C&P examiner things that you would not tell your friends, your buddies, or anybody else. Sometimes things you wouldn't even tell your wife. But you're going to have to spill your heart out to the C&P examiner. She is going to need to know all of the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, a lot of us veterans, especially my age, we got big egos and we don't want to share things. But going to a C&P exam, this is not one of them times. You need to spill out your heart. Tell them everything that you feel is related, every symptom you have that is related to the C&P exam. She's going to be looking for it. Once you tell her, if she can match that to your VA records, VA medical records from in service, after service, and now, more so now than ever, you're more likely to get a favorable decision on that claim. I would tell you to do this. Not everybody learns the same way I do. Everybody's different in their nature and their world. This is how I have learned to prepare at this point in time after failing the first C&P exam. Get your information in front of you 2-3 weeks ahead of time. Read this stuff over and over and over and over till you can just remember it without having to look at the cheat sheets or the notes that you've written. That way, when you walk into that room and that C&P examiner is asking you a few questions, if you don't have a DBQ or anything like that to look off of, you've already got it in your mind what you need to be answered, these questions that need to be answers to them. So it's in your mind, it's there. It's more easily for you to give her an answer that is related to what you're reading or what you've been studying for 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time that's related to your case. The C&P examiner, and I'll repeat this again, does not want to see, are you talking about, well, my daughter was riding a bicycle today and I fell down, she fell down. I mean, it's irrelevant to what the claim is. So take advantage of the short few minutes you're going to have with the C&P examiner and make sure that if you're going in for hearing loss or whatever it might be, but we use hearing loss for a good example, that are tinnitus and hearing loss, make sure that anything you discuss or any information you give her is related to hearing loss and the symptoms related to that. Nothing else. She doesn't want to hear that. In a C&P exam, one of the first things that examiner is going to probably hit you up with is the service connection. They need a service connection to get you the benefits you deserve. If it's not service connected, it's going to be very hard to get compensation for that. But let's go back to a service connection such as hearing loss and tinnitus. If you was in the military in 1985 and you got out with a hearing loss of 0% and a tinnitus of 10%, that is a service-connected disability. Now, you may not claim that immediately, but you get the 10% after you file your first claim. That's a little measly check of about $170 currently today and subject to change this year. But you've got a service-connected disability. It's in your C-file, it's in your medical records, it's in your medical history. You may have it documented in your original paperwork as I do, but that is a service connection. Be confident in discussing your service connection. They're going to ask you, well, what branch of the service was you in? Even though they have this documentation in front of them, they're going to ask you, what branch of service was you in? Well, I was in the Army. I was on the front line. What kind of weapons did you handle? What kind of weapons did you fire? You'll respond accordingly. And you always make sure that you let them know only the things that caused the problem or aggravated the condition. That is so important. You don't need to tell them anything else, just tell them the basics. You was on the front line, you was in the Army, or you was a Marine, you was a grunt, whatever it was, just make sure you emphasize staying on that disability while you was in the service and the claim that you're currently trying to get restitution for. That is important. Don't get off the topic. Stay on whatever they ask you. That they're trying to figure out, is it service connected all the way from the beginning while you was in it till the time you got out and maybe many years after. Next thing after you get through that step, that C&P examiner is going to ask you about the symptoms. And I think hearing is a pretty good one to discuss. You've got a hearing loss. You've got tinnitus ringing in your ears. Tinnitus turns into migraine headaches in some cases. You may have some insomnia inside that as well. So you got 4 things related to one claim of a hearing loss that started out as a hearing loss and tinnitus, which you've already gotten paid for. So those are secondaries. You have insomnia, migraine headaches, and there's other things as well, anxiety and depression, that can be tied into that as secondaries only. But they're going to ask you the symptoms and say you got hearing loss, you got tinnitus ringing in the ears. The examiner will ask, well, how does it affect you today? Well, the ringing in my ears causes me to have migraines. The migraines cause me to have to leave work. The migraines cause me to not socialize with very many people. I'm always wanting to be locked up in a corner and hide out during family events. Those are things that the C&P examiner is going to want to hear. Those are debilitating, I guess you call it, or disabilities that you will have that will take you away from your normal means of life. So those are things she's looking for. Those are the things you want to stay on. Make sure it's related to the service-connected disability, and just keep telling her these things that she needs to hear, and symptoms that you have. If for some reason your memory's like mine, take your notepad, write all the symptoms down, or go get you a blank DBQ. You can get that from va.gov. CFR 38s. Get your copy of the DBQ, fill it out yourself. Now, normally a DBQ would be filled out by a doctor for C&P exam, but print your one yourself, go down that DBQ and check off the boxes and get a little jump on that C&P examiner, what she might be asking you. But notes, keep your notes. Notes are very important. And again, like I said, it ain't against the rules, it ain't against the law. Some of us have to write these notes in order to be able to answer some of these questions correctly. That will benefit us in the most. Something else a C&P examiner might ask you is she may go through all the questions and you'll give her all the answers you think to the best of your knowledge. She may ask you, is there anything else that you would like to include in the C&P exam? And you may take a moment to go down your notes and make sure that she has covered everything that you have on your claim or in your file or in your symptoms, whatever they might be. There may be one that maybe she didn't cover, and you'll say, you know, as a matter of fact, I've got one here that we didn't discuss. Can we talk about this? And most C&P examiners are willing to listen because that's what they're there for. They're getting paid by the VA to examine you. At the same time, the C&P examiner is not your buddy, not your friend. They're hired by the VA to contradict your case, basically. You have to prove your case in front of that C&P examiner, and then that goes into the actual big shot people in the VA organization that will go ahead and look over your claim and decide to award it or deny it. Now, don't think you're going to win or lose at the same time. You're either going to win it, you're going to lose it. If you lose it, you can always appeal it, but preparing for the exam, symptoms, all the stuff we've been discussing is very important. Chances are you'll win it. Do your homework. Let me state something else here. You may be reading something back to that C&P examiner like, these are my symptoms and this is what I have, but this is what I do to overcome it. No, don't go that far. Just tell her your symptoms, how they affect you, how they affect your social life and everything else in general, but don't give them any ammunition to take it away from you. In other words, this is my symptom, this is what I have, and this is what I do to resolve the problem. No, the VA is there to resolve your problem with this claim approval. So don't give that C&P examiner information that will help you fight the claim. Give them information that help you approve the claim only. Now, something I did take to a C&P exam was my own personal statement. A personal statement was pretty much an outline of when my condition started, which was back in the military, as it carried into my civilian life after I was discharged honorably, and to date, the symptoms and all the treatment that I have been getting from the time I was in the military. And like I said, it was documented in my medical records. My original records I do have. So I was able to tie all of that from when I got out of the military. I can tie it up to last visit to doctor's office. So those kind of C&P exams you're going to go to, as long as you got it all documented and that C&P examiner can see that, it's very unlikely that you're going to lose that claim or that case once that rater sees that. Now, I will say something. They're going to ask, like for hearing, which I do have hearing loss, they did ask me what I did or if you have your original records, you'll know this. You'll have your pay stubs from a company that you worked for prior to going into the military. And mine were working in the oil field as a rough. So the company pay stubs are there. So they will ask you, most likely, in a hearing test, or maybe any other C&P exam. In my case, it was hearing loss and tinnitus at the very beginning in 2001. What did you do prior to military? Well, you'll tell them, they'll ask you that. And then they'll ask you, they'll go into the next phase of what you did in the military, and then they're gonna go, once you got out of the military, what did you do? Now, let's say you're going for the C&P exam for tinnitus and hearing loss. If you're a hunter, I don't think you want to mention a whole lot about shooting guns, because if you was in the Army, in the middle of that C&P exam, one of these questions is going to pop up. What arm do you normally shoot with? Me, I shoot from both arms, but the examiner said, which arm is the one that you mainly shoot from? Are you right-handed or left-handed? I said, I'm right-handed. So they're making notes of all this stuff. Now, they'll ask you, what did you do after? If you was in the military, you got a hearing loss and tinnitus problem, and you got out and you continue firing guns all the time, hunting and loud exposure to drag racing or concerts continually, and that is not going to be very favorable for you. So these are things, I'll say, be at your best A game. Only give them information you feel is beneficial to your claim, not ammunition that will help them deny your claim. Again, be honest, but do the best you can with what you have. Now guys, I know I ramble on quite a bit here in this video, and there's so many things to discuss and talk about. I'm going on my third C&P exam here next week. Now that's going to be a depression, anxiety, and several other issues, but it's going to be a mental health exam. I will take that, and once I do, I'll come back and get you a video together on it and let you know how it comes out. C&P exams are important, and I hope this information that I rattle off to you help you in one form or fashion. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. That will help this channel get out there and reach other people that may not ever see it. YouTube does not look at a small mom and pop channel very highly. We don't have a lot to offer, I guess, compared to these guys that are making $1 million a year on advertising for them. But we're not out here to make money. We're out here to try to help veterans get what they deserve, especially when they're disabled. So guys, thumbs up, like, subscribe. See you in the next video. God bless you.